Okay, guys, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Now, fasten your seatbelts. Here we go. All right, guys, it is Thursday, November 21st, and my voice is feeling a little bit better. I have my tea here, my green tea, to keep my, my voice in check. So we're good to go here. Now, what we're going to do tonight is, first of all, we're going to get into the Q post because Q has been posting today. So that's the very first thing we're going to do. That will take one video, although it won't be a very long video. Then my plan is to come back and do the news after that. So that is the plan. So hopefully the plan will go off without a hitch. All right. Now, I do want to just take a moment to thank the following people. Heather H. in Houston, Triple H, thank you so much. And Heather H. just got a new car too. And if I was in Houston, her and I would go for a ride in that car and scare our hair together. Yes, we would. All right. Also, Ed Red, Gramps, and Anita. They have all contributed via coffee. Thank you so much. Also, we have a brand new Patreon subscriber, Sandra Heedley. So, woohoo! Thank you so much. And we are going to go forward now. As always, I always appreciate those of you who support the channel. It helps so much. All right, and I do want to assure you, so many have made comments or emailed me and said they are concerned about what is going to happen with YouTube in December. I too am concerned, but I will be posting somewhere. I'm not going to just disappear on you. So I will have something set up before then, just in case, because obviously I do have another channel on YouTube that I could go to, but chances are that would be taken down as well. So if they are going to be doing that, I will be set up on BitChute. So you will be able to find me there, but I will get all that set up and all my YouTubes uploaded there, and then I will give you the link. All right, well, let's go on now and get into Q. Now, I did miss one from yesterday, the 20th. I had done all the way up to where Q had posted, but this was posted obviously after, so I didn't get to it. But it says simply, Chairman Graham, it's time. So, of course, talking to Lindsey Graham, and Q is calling him out and saying, it's time. The Senate was the target. Now, POTUS said that, Q said that. So what he's saying is, yeah, the Senate was the target all along, and now it's go time. So what exactly that means, I don't know, but I do know that on December 9th, the IG, the Inspector General report by Horowitz, Inspector General Horowitz, is being released. And the interesting thing is that there is a hearing on the 11th, which is a little bit, so those two dates are important in December, the 9th and the 11th. 9/11. Well, let's hope it'll be a 9/11 for the Democrats. Not that I wish anyone to be harmed in any way. I just want justice to be done. That's all. And whatever that justice entails, that is certainly out of my hands, but I do want justice to prevail. So let's go on now. This is the first post from today, the 21st, and it says the following. And it's a long post. What happens when 90% of the media is controlled, owned by 6 corporations? Well, obviously we can see what happens. What happens when those same corporations are operated and controlled by a political ideology, which of course we know they are. And we know what that political ideology is. It's Democrat. So, what happens when the news is no longer free from bias? Well, then it's no longer news, is it? If it's not free from bias, then it's what we call propaganda, not news. And our news is a long way from being unbiased. All right. So what happens when the news is no longer reliable and independent? Well, we see that they're no longer reliable and they're no longer independent. In fact, they're for sale to the highest bidder. And apparently it was the Democrats that were the highest bidder, because that is the political ideology that they follow. We can see that plain and clear. They certainly don't like Republicans or any conservative views at all. So what happens when the news is no longer trustworthy? It isn't. What happens when the news simply becomes an extension or an arm of a political party? Well, we've seen what happens firsthand, up close and personal. We're seeing it right now. So that's what happens. What we're seeing now happens. And we know that they are an extension of the Democrat Party. It's pretty evident to everyone. In fact, it's even starting to become evident to some Democrats who are saying, what? Yeah. So fact becomes fiction. Fiction becomes fact. When does news become propaganda? Well, the news has become propaganda because it's not unbiased. They are giving us the viewpoint of the acceptable party, acceptable in their estimation, not the rest of America's. So isn't that propaganda? When it's fully leaning to one side, you betcha it's propaganda. And that's exactly what we have. Facts become fiction, fiction become facts. When does news become propaganda? Identity creation? How does the average person who is under constant financial stress by design find time to research and discern fact versus fiction? They don't. And that is why there are people like myself and others who, I know there are lots of other people that do a fine job of getting the news out. We research and we report. I wouldn't say that I'm completely unbiased, because I happen to see through the ruse. And, of course, I'm leaning towards the underdog because that is where my personal views lie. But, people have to become reliable on alternate news sources. And most people, that is correct. They're kept under constant financial stress, and they don't have time. They may have kids. They may have, they may be working 2 and 3 jobs, what have you. So they need to rely on alternative news, and most don't. They're so tired by the end of the day. They are so completely done in and worn out that they sit in front of the television and they open their minds and they allow all of this to flood in, and it's influencing them whether they think it is or not. All right. So majority of people are prone to believe someone in power sitting behind a big brand news name. Yes, they are. They most certainly are. Because, if you start saying, oh, well, I'm listening to these videos by Deception Bites, they're going to say, well, who's that? She's just some insane conspiracy theorist, and that's how they discount the alternative news media, because they say, well, they're just a bunch of conspiracy theorists. We're going to trust the big brand news names because they're going to get it right. Yeah. So, do people, human psyche, tend to follow the majority, the mainstream viewpoint, in fear of being isolated and or shunned? Yes, and that is why cults are so successful. I've looked into and delved into a lot of the psychology behind cults because I myself was in one. I've got a book about it, which I guess I haven't even mentioned that for a long time, but I've got a book about it. It's called The View Beneath. and it is available on Amazon. But I've studied that a lot. And the reason why I was so encaptured or I don't know what the right imprisoned, really, my mind was imprisoned in this cult, is because I looked at everyone around me. Everyone I knew was in it, so it seemed normal to me. And I looked around and I thought, well, did I have second thoughts? Did I question what they were saying to me? Absolutely I did. But on the other hand, I looked around me at all these people that I respected and I thought, well, if I'm right, that will make everybody else here wrong. And I'd look around and I'd say, well, that would make, people that I respect and look up to wrong. No, it's got to be me. It's got to be me. And I'd brush it aside until I could no longer ignore it. But that is what people tend to do. Whatever the mainstream idea or ideology or whatever the mainstream are following, most people tend to go along because they say, well, all those people can't be wrong. Yeah, they can. They can, and I'm proof of it. So, mainstream is used for a reason. Dominate, trend in opinion. Absolutely. They are shaping the opinions of America, and they are shaping them into what they want them to be. And nobody can argue with that. How do you argue with that? Mainstream is used for a reason. Dominate, trend in opinion. If majority of people believe X, then X must be validated or true. And we do that all the time. We do that all the time. You go to a Western medicine doctor and they say, well, this is the way it is. I mean, I was told that I would never walk again, that I would be in a wheelchair for the rest of my life. I am in pain, but I'm completely mobile. And so they're not always right. But a lot of people would say, oh, well, if the doctor says that, that's my burden to bear in this life. I guess I'm going to be in a wheelchair. But, just because the majority of people or, someone in authority thinks a certain way doesn't make it right. Why do mainstream media heads within different organizations always use the same keyword or catchphrases? Well, we know all about the 4 a.m. drops that came from the CIA. I don't know if they're still happening, but somebody is instructing these people what to say because it's the same across every network. They say the exact same words, the exact same phrases. And notice how when the Democrats were pushing the quid pro quo, everything was quid pro quo. That's all you'd hear. All of the mainstream media, quid pro quo. Then they changed it to bribery, and all of the mainstream media started saying bribery. It's bribery. Why? Because they did a focus group or whatever, and they found out that bribery sounded worse than quid pro quo. So they changed the word, and all the media must have got the note quickly because the next day it was all changed to bribery. Coordinated? Absolutely, it's coordinated. By who? Well, I don't know. I would assume because it used to be the CIA. I don't know if they are still the ones instructing or not, or if it's been cleaned out. But there is some outside entity instructing them. No question about that. So it says, where was I now? Coordinated by who? Outside entity providing instructions? Well, absolutely. Because what are the odds that all the media would be using the exact same terminology, the exact same phrases, and feel the exact same way? What are the odds? Do echo chamber tactics provide validation or credibility to the topic point being discussed? Actually, yes, because the more times you hear something, the more times you tend to believe it. Still, to this day, and it has been many, 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 many years since I have been free of the cult that I was involved in, But still today, I find myself thinking, do I believe that because that's what I was told so many times? Or do I believe it because that's what I believe? And then I have to go and research it for myself. And I find out, yeah, you know what? What I believe is wrong because I still had that left over from way back. So anyway, so yes, echo chamber tactics do provide validation and credibility to topics or points being discussed. Threat to intellectual freedom. Well, heck yes, it's a threat to intellectual freedom. Would control over of these institutions, organizations allow for the mass control of population's viewpoint regarding a desired topic? We already know the answer to that. And, you know, one of my undergrad degrees is in psychology, so I happen to know that that's exactly what happens. Propaganda does shape behavior, and that's what it is. It's propaganda. Read again, digest. Would control over or of these institution organizations allow for the mass control of a population's viewpoint regarding a desired topic? Heck yes. Logical thinking. Why, after the election of 2016, did Democrats and media corporations jumpstart a coordinated and planned divisive blitz, and that's what it was, a propaganda blitz, intended to create falsehood regarding the illegitimacy of the election, character assassination of POTUS through sexism, racism, and every other ism? You know, and that's what we saw, right? He's sexist, he's racist, he's whatever. Whatever they could call him, they called him. It didn't matter that they had absolutely not a shred of proof of that. But they assassinated his character, you know, and when they didn't have proof, they just made it up. They brought in a Stormy Daniels or others. So, yeah, pre-post 2016 election, why were violent, masked terror organizations such as Antifa immediately created and funded? And we know they were created by the left. We know that they were funded by Soros and groups under his umbrella. Why? Because then when, you know, civility was breaking down, what did they do? They blamed Trump. It's all Trump's fault. See, this is Trump's America now. You know, these people are coming against this white nationalism. So they made it seem like this was just an organic thing that grew up out of this white nationalism, this racism that Trump was bringing to America. That's what they wanted us to believe. And Antifa was just a standing up in protest of that. But they didn't bother telling you that it was created and funded. No, they didn't tell you any of that. Why were these organizations tasked with immediate intimidation or a shutdown of any pro-POTUS rallies and or events? Because they're a threat. Excuse me, I'm taking my socks off and you can't stop me. I should have done that before. It's a terrible thing when your feet are imprisoned. All right. So, yeah, the POTUS rallies are a threat, and so they want to bring these things to the forefront, and they want the media not to focus on what is happening inside the stadium or what have you. They don't want them to focus on that, on the positive things that Trump is saying, and the fact that there are multitudes of thousands of people that will wait in line for days just to see him, just to listen to him. They don't want us focusing on that. They want us focused on this Antifa, all this, you know, stuff going on outside the rallies. And then they can say, see what this white nationalism is causing? You don't want this man. You don't want Trump in your community, in your city, because this is what's going to happen. And this is the violence that's going to be, you know, unleashed because he brings it with him, with all his, racism and white nationalism. So when you control, why were marches immediately organized to counter and silence pro-POTUS rallies? We've already looked at that. Why were marches immediately organized which divided people into sex, gender, race, and isms? When you control the levers of news dissemination, you control the narrative. Absolutely. Control the narrative, you have the power, right? Whoever controls the narrative has the power. When you are blind, what do you see? Nothing. They want you divided. Divided by religion, divided by sex, divided by political affiliation, divided by class. When you are divided and angry and controlled, you target those different from you, not those responsible, not your controllers. Divided, you are weak. Divided, you pose no threat to their control. When non-dogmatic information becomes free and transparent, it becomes a threat to those who attempt to control the narrative and or stable livestock kept, sheep. So yeah, they're trying to control the narrative, and by controlling the narrative, they control the stable and the sheep. When you are awake, you stand on the outside of the stable, groupthink, collective, and have free thought. And you know what? If you're not used to doing that, it can be lonely when you're standing on the outside. I know. But I would be alone for the rest of my life rather than be imprisoned in my mind. It is very freeing to have your own thoughts. And I don't watch TV. I have a TV, but I haven't had it plugged in now in almost 2 years. So, yeah, we want to have our own thoughts. When you are awake, okay, I just read that. Free thought is a philosophical viewpoint which holds that positions regarding truth should be formed on the basis of logic, reason, empiricism, rather than authority, tradition, revelation, or dogma. Oh, that is a wonderful, wonderful sentence. I'm going to read that again. Free thought is a philosophical viewpoint which holds that positions regarding truth should be formed on the basis of logic, reason, and empiricism. And empiricism is basically that which you can prove beyond a shadow of a doubt through any means necessary. Yeah, on the basis of logic, reason, and empiricism, rather than authority, tradition, revelation, or dogma. And there's always those that God revealed to me this, blah, 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 blah. And there's always those that stand in authority, and they will say something, and people are prone to believe them just because they're the authority. They should know. Well, maybe they do know, but do they have your best interests in mind? Are they telling you something in the interest of truth, or because that's what they want you to believe is the truth? Anyway, and Q ends this, as he always does, with Q. Now, I'm just going to make sure that this is still recording, and it looks like it is. So let's go back over here. I'm sure you are aware that I've had a little bit of trouble with that recently, so I do like to check before I go for, a whole long thing and then find out it wasn't recording, because, yeah, that's a bit upsetting. I'm sorry that I have to drink in front of you, but I do want to calm the cough. And thank you guys that prayed for me, because I am actually feeling better for the first day in a long time. So I actually feel like myself today, almost. Not quite, but almost. All right, now we're going to go on to the next one. And the first thing Q does is he sends us to a Twitter link. And we're going to go there now. And it is here, Majestic 12. If you've never seen this, I have seen this before several times, but it is definitely worth replaying. Hang on here, I'm going to make it a little bit bigger for you tiny phone people. Always thinking about you tiny phone people. All right, here we go.
Our greatest responsibility is to serve our Treasure Valley communities,
the El Paso, Las Cruces communities,
Eastern Iowa communities,
Mid-Michigan communities.
We are extremely proud of the quality, balanced journalism that CBS 4 News produces.
But
We are concerned plaguing our country.
The sharing of biased and false news has become all too common on social media. More alarming, some media outlets publish these same fake stories without checking facts first.
the sharing of biased and
false news has become all too common on social media.
More alarming, some media outlets publish these stories true without checking facts first.
Unfortunately, some members of the media use their platforms to push their own personal bias and agenda to control exactly what people think. And this is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
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 Very interesting, isn't it?
Headley.
And I'm Ryan Wolf.
Our greatest
Sorry. While this was playing, I poured myself some more tea and it dribbled everywhere. So I had to use my sock to clean it up. I don't know if you caught that or not on camera, but yeah. All right. You do what you got to do, right? All righty. Now, Sammy has joined me under this desk here for some reason. So anyway, let's go back before I get all off on something else. Now, Q, he sent us to that link, and it's very self-explanatory. There's no need in any explanation there. It's obvious that they're using a script, or else something really, really weird's going on. But, and Q just simply says information warfare. Q, and get down. Not you. When I say that to the cats, and I'm talking to my friend in Georgia, he always says, are you telling those cats to dance again? You know, get down. All right, information warfare, let's go on and not get distracted by cats. Now, this is the next one, and it's dark because I clipped it from a different Q site. It has a lot more information on it, so I'm going to be using that one from now on. Anyway, let's go to this drop because Q says game over. And I would like to think it is. All right, now it says, hang on here. Let me stop this. All right, let's go up here by iDrop Media. FISA is the start. FISA-gate, FISA, impeachment hearings. Here you go, QAnon, Q Army, the A team equals Schiff, Dems, and the mainstream media, the Q team, we, the people. So let's take a look here. I'm gonna make sure I got it all in view here. There we go. Now here comes Q team. Yeah, where we go one, we go all. So I like that. The A team, they take their best shots, but they can't do it. But Q, we the people, oh yeah, game over. So let's go back now and see what else Q has for us tonight. And the next is this. Q sign on Chicago Bridge. Media is complicit. Treason. And it says, first of all, Q gives us a link to this. Let me make it a little bit bigger so you can see it. And it says, saw this on the way home today, coming home from Chicago during rush hour. Amazing how many people honked. And it says, media is complicit. Hashtag treason. Q. And Q, I clipped this out so we wouldn't have to keep going back and forth. But Q says, the Great Awakening, you are the news now. Handle with care. Q. So I like that. And then we have this. We have another one here, and Q has given us a link, and we're going to go out to that right now. And it says, news unlocks, you have more than you know. Q. Let's go out and take a look. All right, it says FBI 302s were modified. We know that. We knew this a long time ago. Payne, House of Cards. Now, we're going to come down here and we're going to look at what she is saying here. This is a Q post from the 27th of April, 2019. And that's interesting. It was posted at 3:13:33. It says chain of command, chain of custody, Pence, COS, plus wife. And I think that's Pence, chief of staff, plus wife. FBI 302s, FISA, spy, Flynn, will newly discovered evidence, AG Barr, and the Southern District of New York. Is that what that stands for? Free Flynn. Q. And then this, FBI 302's official interview records modified for political purposes. And this is the 20th of June, 2018. Says reread drops regarding 302 modification. DOJ forced to supply. Rod Rosenstein. Fireworks. Rank and file testifying as informants. Hussein, White House senior staffer, on record. Payne, House of Cards. These people are sick. Doctors treating. Interesting. Q. Then we have this, and I don't expect you to be able to read this, and hopefully I can. Mueller report will contradict, per Brennan tweet today, disconnect exists. Republicans versus Democrats, negative for POTUS. Insurance policy. And then we come down here, Comey release of memo to obtain special counsel attack POTUS, witch hunt, special counsel / Comey, Rod Rosenstein, state, POTUS not under investigation, Flynn pleads guilty to non-committed crime, S interview, S / P, Strzok Page, Strzok interviewed, Strzok Page relationship with judge, and number 2, Strzok Page 302 modification. So we've been hearing about these modifications, and it's been for a while, right? It's been, well, since April at least. Now, I was just seeing what this was, but I guess Q didn't point that out, so I guess that's not necessary for us to look at. And it says, news unlocks, you have more than you know. So, I don't know. I haven't seen anything in the news today about the 302s, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's not going to be in the news tomorrow. I don't know. Now, I don't see every single news article. That's not even possible for one person to do. So it's quite possible I've missed something. And if I have, please put it in the comments below. I really appreciate your comments. I really do, because it helps us to all learn. If I'm wrong about something, I want to know. Don't think that I'm going to get all upset. I'm not. I will apologize if I've got something wrong, if at all possible. So anyway, I do rely on your comments to keep me straight because, like I said, nobody's perfect. And this is it's not addressed to us, but it's interesting nonetheless. And it says, Q advises CodeMonkey to delay SALT update until the platform stabilizes. Now, this is the last post for today from Q. And it's got a link to this right here, and it's Ron, who's CodeMonkey. There is a scheduled SALT rotation for this coming Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. This is a routine procedure. When it happens, bans are reset, post histories start fresh, and secure trip codes change. So I'm not really sure what a SALT rotation is. So I'm sorry for my ignorance on that matter, but if somebody knows, and I'm sure many of you know, please put it in the comments below and enlighten us all. And so Q responds to this and says, CodeMonkey, platform not fully functional / stable. It's not fully functional or stable. Picture uploads are not secure or functional. Suggest update delay to prevent IDEN recheck regarding trip update failure until platform stabilized. So he's suggesting suggest update delay. So this update that's supposed to be happening Monday, Q is wanting him to delay that. And the reason is to prevent identity recheck regarding trip update failure until platform stabilized. Now, if you know what all that means, then more power to you. My hat's off to you, although I'm not wearing a hat. But if I was, my hat would be off to you. I'm not wearing a wig either, or I'd take my hair off for you, but no, it's really mine. All right, so that is it for the Q post for tonight. So I'm going to get this uploaded for you, and so far my voice is all right. So knock on wood. Well, that's not wood, but all right. So that's it for tonight. Thank you guys so much for listening. I will be back with more news, so stay tuned. Or if your bedtime's coming up, go to bed. It'll still be here tomorrow. So thank you guys so much. Stay safe, stay well, stay blessed, and keep seeking truth because Epstein didn't kill himself.